Melancholie der Engel, or The Angel's Melancholy, is a shade under 3 hours of a German gore horror film without subtitles. Luckily, you can watch this on dailymotion.com, and it is only in 10 15-minute segments and an 8-minute long segment. This movie is very dialogue driven, so if you don't speak German or you can't find a subtitled version, a lot of what they say is going to make absolutely no sense to you at all. This movie is like the marathon of horror films being a shade under 3 hours. And if anything, for me, that's what really hurt this film. You know, it's got this huge, bizarre level of people going, oh, you know, it's this great, gory horror film, and this, that, and the other thing. And it is very viscerally disturbing. You know, there's lots of scenes where, you know, they're mutilating animals. There's a scene where they actually butcher a pig. It appears to be an official butchering of a pig done by a professional. And then there's all the weird, you know, sexually related scenes where there's a woman who's becoming sexually aroused by making out with a dead pig and stuff like that. But what hurts this movie is just, it's so long. There's lots of symbolism in there, but again, not knowing the language, you know, when someone's in a church taking a rotting animal skull and like pushing it against a statue on a wall while he's naked, I'm not getting what it's supposed to be about. Beyond it's just a creepy guy naked in a church. This movie has a lot of I don't want to see you naked nudity in it. I knew going into this that it was going to be this really bizarre sort of movie, but ironically, all the more vicious parts they show in like featurette trailers. Last year I did reviews on stuff like, you know, Solo, which, even though again I saw it with no subtitles and had no context to it, it was just really crazy bizarre where they kept on topping themselves slowly. And then all of a sudden they kind of stopped. This movie, it almost seems like every scene is trying to outdo them before it, so you hit a point where you just kind of get numb watching it. I like the way that it's shot. You know, it's got this really great art house feel to it, and it's beautifully shot for what they're doing. But the fact that it is a shade under 3 hours, I don't know how often I can look at, you know, worms and maggots crawling over things, and worms occasionally getting cut open by scalpels, or salamanders getting stepped on like they kind of crack open and explode. You know, the scenes that I felt the worst for, you know, there's a scene where they kill a cat. You know, I'm assuming it's probably a practical effect, but it's hard to tell in this movie what's a practical effect and what's actually more of a real effect. And you know, this movie it just gets so grating to watch. And one of the most disgusting and disturbing scenes in the movie, there's a woman in a wheelchair. So you can pretty much basically tell when people in the first like 45 minutes are just doing drugs and then having, you know, kind of nasty, I don't want to watch you two naked having sex sort of scenes. And then all of a sudden later on, you know, they're just wanting brutality to each other, where they're beating each other up, or, you know, having intercourse using knives, or cutting open someone's, you know, boobs with a scalpel for arousal purposes. It's just monotonous watching this. But the girl in the wheelchair also has a colostomy bag. So you can probably tell if they're beating each other up and, you know, setting each other on fire and urinating on each other and occasionally pooping on each other. It's just everything you can think of that's just really bizarre and messed up. It's pretty much in this movie, like almost scene after scene. So of course the main character, on his good guard bag, I guess I don't know the language, rips out the woman's colostomy bag and then kind of fingers the colostomy hole. I'm like, yeah, okay, you can only watch somebody scream in pain and agony for like 3 minutes straight before you kind of go, yeah, it was disturbing. Now it's just kind of part, I'm like, okay, the scene is just going on and on and on. And that's the problem with this movie, is it's almost 3 hours long. And it's just, it gets where it's almost super monotonous as you're watching. I'm like, oh, it's just, oh, I've got, oh, right now I'm at like spot 9 of 11. movie like Hannibal Holocaust had a lot more shock value to it, but it was small and there appeared to be a lot more shock. In this one, again, if I knew the language, I might get a lot more dialogue and it might actually have a lot more going to it. But this is kind of like a marathon of just watching messed up things happen. You know, a Serbian film was really powerful because one, it was in English, so I knew what they were saying. And two, you know, when you can tell that there's a guy who's kind of down on his luck, and then the guy whose goal is to really, you know, further this ambitious goal that he has, he doesn't care what he has to do. He is going to further this goal. And if you try to get in his way, it doesn't matter, because you will, once you step into his world for a Serbian film, you are helping him get to his goal. You know, and it's just the villainy to it and the way he was doing his portrayal of it, and the acting was really good. This one, it just seems like it's a bunch of people who are just mean to each other in some cases, but love each other, and they just all seem like they're just really severe mentally disturbed people. So you really kind of don't have a real good juxtaposition between, you know, here's a good person in the bad situation, here's the bad person controlling it. This just seems like it's just people doing random wanton acts of carnality to each other for the sake of doing random wanton acts of carnality. While it is very disturbing, it's just so draining to watch because it's almost 3 hours. Again, very dialogue driven, but it just took forever to get through this movie. You know, beautifully shot. I love the way that it was shot. I love the cinematography for it. You know, this person really has an eye for a really unique way of doing it. It's a really great eye for detail, but this movie just takes forever.